Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Lydia with Raindrop Lila, and today I'm going to show you guys a behind the scenes of this journal that I've made. I actually have a flip through of it finished, and I thought I'd show you guys a little bit of the construction of it. I was inspired by Meredith to make this journal. She actually has a tutorial, a detailed tutorial on a flip-flop journal, so if you want to watch that, I will link it below. I'm using digitals from Tanya with Let's Design Creative, and I'm also using digitals that I made. We actually collaborated to make digitals that will work really great together. So I'm actually using some of my digitals and some of her digitals to make this journal. So I'll link everything I use below so you guys can go take a look. Okay, so here I'm starting with some envelopes, and I actually was playing around with the construction, so I have this envelope set here that I started, and I'm showing you guys how I put it together just as an idea, but I do this one just a little bit different because sometimes things don't go exactly as you had in mind, and I just like to go with inspiration. So basically I have the two envelopes, and here I am going to be gluing them together, and I picked up these envelopes from the Dollar Tree, and they're great because they already have the adhesive on it, but I'm also adding just a little bit of adhesive where it doesn't meet all the way to the corner because I want it to seal really well. And I'm just gluing it down there. And then you have the first part of the journal, and right in between each part that opens up, that's where I put in my signatures. Okay, so I'm starting with this other envelope, and I'm trying to show you guys so you can see how it opens up and kind of the idea. It's a really simple process, and it comes together quite easily. And basically the way it looks, it's like a zigzag. Here I'm showing you guys some of the digitals I used. I used my Reflections printables, and I love the way they look with Tanya's printables, and her printables are called Indigo Notes, and I love the rich colors, and I love the big flowers, and then all the little pieces of ephemera. I'm going to show you guys some of the pages that are included, and I already tore some of the edges out, and now I'm going through and I'm kind of picking my favorites. And that sometimes changes because I will pick some things out, and then when you lay them down, it depends on how they look all together. But here at least I'm minimizing the amount of pieces I'm working with. So I'm selecting the ones I want. Okay, these are the ephemera pieces, and I'm going to set them aside, and then I have more pieces. I actually love to cut everything out to have them ready to work with. So here are the tags, and here is some more ephemera, and then these images, these are the framed beauties, and these are from my Etsy shop, and I just love them. Aren't they just beautiful? And then these are from Tanya's shop, and I love these little pieces. They are so perfect. Okay, and then she also has these vintage envelopes, and I think they're so great. I love using them. I love the look of them. And I just went ahead and I cut them out so they're ready to go. And then I have some more papers, and I actually even printed some papers from her Memories collection. This one here is one of my favorites. Actually, both of these are my favorites, and they're from her Memories collection. I also have this set of printables. This is my Red Roses Junk Journal ephemera. I minimized them when I printed them, so I printed them 2 to a page, so they're actually smaller than the original size. Okay, so then I also have these. These are my rich antique documents, and again, I have these rich colors. I felt like they worked really well with Tanya's collection, and they're basically just different ledgers, and I have the front and the back, and it's also on reverse so that it has that effect like it seeped through. Okay, now I'm starting on the journal, and I'm thinking I want to start with one of these framed beauties, one of these ladies. I think they're so pretty, and now I'm deciding which one I want to go with, and I think they're all pretty, but I'm just kind of picking one for a direction. Then I have all these other pieces that I'm looking through. Sometimes it's good to just look through your stash to kind of see what you have or remember what you have, just for inspiration. And I think I'm going to go with this page first. I think it's really pretty. I love the rich colors, and I think I want it to go on this envelope, and I also printed this piece on cardstock. So now I'm trying to figure out the sizing of it. And I'm actually thinking maybe I'm not going to use the envelope. Maybe I'll just use the size of the envelope. So I'm just kind of looking at it and trying to figure out where I want the placement for the flower to go. Okay, so here I'm just going to fold it. So see, this is a cardstock. It's not actually just regular paper. I actually just printed this one on cardstock. And that was just kind of, that just happened by mistake, but I'm just gonna use it. It actually worked out really well. And so this is kind of my idea. I want this as the cover. Now here I'm trying to figure out which way I want to work with it. So I'm thinking, do I want to add it in as a flip? And so a lot of my process is kind of going back and forth. As I create, I try different things, and then I'll make a decision on which way I'm gonna go with it. So I'm trying to make the envelope, the shorter envelope work. I'm trying different things out to see if I want to use that still. But now I'm deciding that I want to go with the cardstock on the cover. I like the way the cardstock looks. I love the flower and how it looks on the cover. And now I'm thinking I need something underneath it. And so I want to find something that will work well underneath. Now I'm looking through the different printables to see which ones may work on the next sheet, and I'm really keeping that in mind. I want the cover sheet to kind of pop. I want there to be nice contrast between the cover and then the first page that you see underneath, because I think that makes a really nice design point in the ledger, which is not as busy. And so even though I love the gray, I'm gonna keep trying different ones, because there will be a point where you see one and you're like, that's it, that's the one that has to go there. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I really love this gray one, and I'm gonna keep playing with it and looking at how it looks. And I got it upside down there, but I didn't realize that because I'm looking at the color and just the overall idea of it right now. Okay, so I'm thinking to add one of these type of pages underneath there and just fold it over like that. I think that has a nice effect. Okay, I think right now, so now I'm just gonna ink the envelope. I don't want any of the white showing, so I'm gonna ink the edges now. Okay, now we're just gonna see how it looks, because I don't want to glue it down and end up with a lot of white underneath there, especially since the colors are so rich. I'm gonna try some book print. I love book print, and I think the contrast will look really good with these colors. So I'm gonna try something a little bit different now. I'm gonna just tear a few pieces, and again, I'm gonna ink my envelope a little bit more, because you can see a little bit too much white when you add the papers down. So I'm gonna try to ink a little bit more of those edges. Okay, so now I'm ready to add my book print and see how it looks. See if that's the direction that I want to go into. This is a lot of my process. I try different things. I will try different papers, and I'm okay if I need to change things up a little bit. Okay, now I want to actually glue down this flap, because it's going to be covered anyways. So this is just, the envelope is just the construction of the journal. It's like the base. And so I'm gonna completely cover up the envelope, so you're not gonna see it. Okay, so I'm starting with the book page. And a lot of times I'll fold things over and then just glue them over, because I think it looks good when you have just a little bit folded over. So that's kind of a technique I do a lot in my collaging. I have to add just a little bit of more ink on the back page here. Okay, now let's see how it looks. So see how pretty that looks? I love the color of the book page. I love that yellowing against the blue. That is really nice contrast, and I love that I changed it up. You'll see that throughout the video, I'm constantly looking at the construction and turning pages and just looking at it, because that helps me kind of plan in my mind. I keep looking at it and opening it up. That's just part of my process, is to open it up and just kind of handle it and see how it feels and how it looks. Okay, so here on the bottom, I'm gonna add some more book page, and I'm gonna ink it up, and I don't mind when it tears up slightly. I think that adds to the look. I love when it has the little tears, especially when the paper is really fragile. I think it just gives it such a nice old look. Okay, so I'm just gonna glue it down here, and my fingers are all glued up, so I'm trying to be careful not to touch the front of the paper that's gonna show. And I do rub. Sometimes it smears a little bit, the glue, but if you rub it off kind of quickly, it'll come off, and sometimes using an eraser will help. Okay, so see this part right here? You can see the little tears, how it's torn, and I think it looks so pretty. I'm gonna add a little bit more distressing, and I'm gonna fold it up a little bit. Usually folding something up really helps me, because it doesn't look so perfect and so new. And I think my comfort zone is working with something that looks older, and it's almost like you're not afraid to handle it, because I've done scrapbooking for a long time, and usually buying some new paper, it almost feels like you don't want to ruin it. So a lot of times one of my first steps is to start tearing into something, because then it's you're already starting, so you're good to go. looking on the other side, I think I want to add some more book page to this side. I'm looking through one of my old, I guess this is like an old magazine, or I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I love the pages because it gives me really nice vintage book print, and I love the yellowing of these pages. So this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to tear this off. I love the softer edge when I tear the book page, and so I do that a lot. Okay, now I'm going to just glue everything down. And now I have my piece of paper, and I love the way it's torn up. And now I'm going to try different things and see which I like best. And I'm thinking maybe I should go with another page. And I'm thinking I like the house. Maybe I should use the house because this is going to be like the first page of the journal when you open it up. And so I'm thinking maybe I'm going to use the house instead. Because on the first page, I'm going to have the picture of the girl, and then I'm going to have the house, and I feel like that's just like a nice transition. And I'm really liking that. I like the way this looks. I'm going to just tear off the bottom. And I love tearing my paper because it gives nice texture, and I also like to roll up those pieces. It just gives you really nice dimension. Okay, and I'm going to fold it over towards the back. And I really love the way it looks. I love the way when you open it up, you have the house there. And I love the contrast of the book page. I think it complements the paper so well. Okay, now I'm going to ink the edges just so they stand out just a little bit more. So here I'm rolling up some of that torn edge, and I'm just going to ink it up a little bit. And I really do love that dimension that it gives. I'm going to create a small tear over here on the corner. Again, it's just these little details that kind of add to the look. I want to make it look a little bit old and a little bit like it's all wrinkling up. And the corners usually are the ones that are handled most. So that's what I'm kind of rolling them up and distressing them just a little bit. Okay, so here's what I have so far, but I'm thinking I want to cover this white spot up so that I'm thinking to make a little pocket in there. And so when you tuck something in, you're gonna see the white spot if I don't glue it completely down. So I'm gonna add a little bit of book page on here so that you see the book page and it's kind of seamless and it's not all white. And I'm looking at the different pieces that I want to use. And I tore just that part off because I liked the title. I wrote a shooting star. I think that's really, really cute. I love that title, so I'm going to save that, and I'm just going to use a scrap. Okay, so we have this whole page collaged, and now I'm just going to glue this part on here. Here I'm just gluing the top and the bottom, and I did go in a little bit at the top. But basically, I'm going to take some of that back off. And so basically I'm making this into a little tuck spot so you can hide little notes in there or little journaling cards. And it's just a cute little tuck spot right there. Okay, see that? So now you can see a little bit of the book print. And then here, I'm not sure what I want to do with it. I like the idea of it opening up, I think. And so I'm thinking, okay, let me use some scraps maybe. I'm trying to figure out where I want to go with this page. And I usually do try a lot of things out. This is just part of my process where you just try different pieces. I think that helps so you can have a visual of maybe which direction you want to go in. At least that's how I work. Okay, so here I want to strengthen that spine a little bit so that when you fold it over, since this is paper, I don't want it to break. So I'm just going to add a little bit of masking tape on here. And I'm so sorry it went out of focus. And I think I'm going to need a little bit more inking so you don't see as much white. Okay, I'm going to glue this down now. Another reason why I ink up the edges a little bit more is because a lot of times I like to wrinkle them up. And I don't necessarily like to glue all the way to the edge. Sometimes I like to wrinkle them up a little bit. So when you do that, you want the back of it to be either inked or you don't want it to be white. Or I should rephrase and say, I don't want it to be white. I want it to work well with the colors that I'm going for. So this is more of a vintage look. So that's why I'm going to want it to be a little bit more yellowed, if that makes sense. And see here, I'm kind of distressing the edges and tearing them up a little bit. And again, I'm going to keep adding some of my distress ink to those edges so you don't see the white. Now I need to add something else. I like the ledger. I think the ledger is really great. Maybe I'll do a little collage with the ledger. And I'm going to try it up on top. I usually try it in different places to see which placement I like best. And even if I know I like one placement, I'm going to try it again in other placements because it's good to have a visual and then make a decision after I have a visual of what it looks like. I'm a very visual creator, so it really helps for me to lay things out. And then once I kind of see both placements, I just make a decision and go with it. And again, I'm rolling those little edges down because I love the way that looks. Okay, so now I need to figure out what I want at the top, and I'm thinking maybe I can go with some book page at the top. So now keep in mind that what I'm doing is I'm trying to fill, this is my background page, and some backgrounds, I'm going to collage them and leave as is, but you can always add more interest with like a focal piece on top. So I always start with my backgrounds first. So if it seems a little bit boring or plain because I'm just doing a little bit of collaging, you can always add things later, is what I'm trying to say. So I keep that in mind also when I work, is that you can add detail later. You can add washi tape, you can add journaling spots, you can add ephemera. And so here I'm adding more book page at the top, and I'm peeling it down a little bit so that I can get the book page all the way down into the corner, if that makes sense. And I like the way that looks. I think it looks really good. I'm thinking, does it need something at the top? I wonder, do I need a little bit of paper to cover that edge up? I don't know. I'm gonna try it and see. Maybe not. You know what? I think I'm gonna add some masking tape. Maybe the masking tape will help. Sometimes I like to do that. I like to add just a little bit of masking tape. It's see-through enough to kind of cover up and kind of transition that edge. I think it looks good, and I like that little touch right there. Okay, so now we have this page done. So here's what I have so far, and I love the cover with the flower or the roses, and I love how it opens to the house. And then I have this part here, and then the last page. And I'm going to try to figure out what I want to do with this now, because I wasn't planning it. And here, if you can see, I was thinking first to glue this flap down, but that's not going to work now because I want to see this image, and I like the flap there. So I'm kind of thinking through my idea, like what I'm doing with my page. Now I'm looking at the cover. At first I thought I would glue it down, but now I'm thinking maybe it should be like a floating little pocket. I'm thinking it should be like a topper maybe. So I'm looking at the construction and trying to figure out which way I want to go with it. I always go with inspiration, so for me things really change a lot throughout my process. I don't have everything figured out as soon as I go to create a journal. I just have a feel for which way I want to go, like colors, inspiration. And then as I create, that's kind of my discovery process. Thinking now, I like the way this journal looks. This is the way it's gonna open up. I'm gonna have a signature in the front, and I think I'm just gonna go now with decorating the pages, the backgrounds, and I'll come back to the cover later to figure out which way I'm gonna go with it. So I feel like if I move on, I kind of know what I guess my problem areas are. And so as I work in other areas of the journal where maybe it doesn't take that much thought process, like I'm just making backgrounds here, as I create, I kind of still have the front in mind. I still have kind of like the idea of which way I want to go with it. And that way I'm not like overthinking it by working on the cover and not really sure which way I go. I just keep going and keep creating. And usually when I come back to my problem area, or maybe it's not my problem area, it's just an area where I'm not sure which way I'm gonna go, and I want to give my mind kind of some time to kind of decide how to resolve it or which way to go with it, if that makes sense. So it's easy for me to just collage because you're just kind of gluing down different papers. And so that's what I'm doing here. I'm just making the backgrounds. I'm gluing down the backgrounds to the pages and getting the whole journal kind of ready for construction. Isn't this paper pretty? I just love that dark blue with the flowers. They're so pretty. Now I'm looking at the other page. I'm not sure what I want to go with on this page. I don't think there's like a wrong way. I think you can really make a lot of different styles work. And so the blue would look good here too. It's not like that's wrong, but I'm thinking maybe I want some contrast. And I do love using the book page, so I'm gonna go with book page on this side. You'll see that a lot of times as I work, I will change things up on the last second. Sometimes I'm a little bit spontaneous like that. I'll go in one direction and then I'll do something else. And sometimes that's kind of hard for me to make a video because I feel like I need to go into one direction and not change things up on you guys. But that's just part of my process, and I think that's okay. I think that's just my creative thought process, I suppose. And so you'll see if you watch, if I do more videos like this, you'll see that a lot of times I'll go in one direction and then I'll change it up at the end, and I'll just be like, oh, I like this better. And it'll be, you know, like an instant, I'll just change everything. So here I'm just gonna fill up the page with more book page. And I'm not gonna worry about that orange little square at the top. I don't like it because it doesn't fit in with the color scheme. And this is not like a journal where everything goes. I want it to be really cohesive, but I'm okay because I will cover that up. I will add something in that spot to cover up that bright, bright orange. I want a solid background to work with. So that's my focus right now, and when I come back to embellish the journal, that's when I'll cover it up. Okay, here I'm just kind of considering my other papers. So you'll see that again, I already tore the page. I think I'm going in this direction, but I also looked at those other papers. Because again, I like to change my mind at the last moment. It seems like sometimes I'll just go in a different direction, but I like this page, so I'm gonna go with it. Okay, I really like the way that looks. I love the contrast between the dark blue page and the book page. I think that's really pretty. I'm really loving the contrast, actually. And so yeah, if you feel like you need more contrast or you're not sure if something's working out in a journal, always consider adding some contrast with like either a book page, or check the coloring of your book pages. Sometimes maybe the book page is too yellowish and too aged with your printables if you're mixing printables with book page, and sometimes it could be too white. So I have different books. Some books have whiter pages or creamier pages, and then some books are just more yellowed and they look a lot more grungy. Like I think this one looks a little bit more grungy and they're a lot yellower, but they work really, really well with these printables because these printables are so rich in color. The yellowing looks great with coloring. So keep that in mind. You know, try different colors out and see how they work with your printables if that's what you're working with. It's nice to, I also mix things up, so you can mix things up, but sometimes if you feel like something's not working, you can try that. You can try the different color, you know, look at your colors and see if that's maybe what's not working for you. Okay, so here I'm working with some of the rich antique documents, and I'm trying to figure out where I want to fold it, and I want to use them as a standard layout, so I'm not using them as the tall format. I want them a little bit smaller, so I'm folding them in 3. I want to make sure that they fold in and they fit in the journal. I want the journal covers to be a little bit bigger than the pages inside. Okay, and I have this one also, and I'm trying to think, okay, maybe I want to break it up with some of this lighter color. I really like this ledger. This ledger is actually by Tanya. It's part of the kit, and I love the way it looks. I tore it out already. I tore those edges out, and here's one tip that I wish I would have done before I tore everything up. If you're gonna tear the edges up, it's gonna be a lot easier to print on the back before you tear the edges up. That way you don't have to collage on it as much and get those edges really perfect, which I ended up just collaging on top. So anything is fixable, but if you want to make your life a little bit easier, print on the back of it, because that'll give you a base to work with and you won't have as much white. space to cover up with the inking. Okay, so here I'm trying to decide what else I want to do. So here I'm going to just ink those edges because again, I didn't print. I probably should have printed a basic, almost like a book page color so that it kind of blends in well, so you can still collage on it or you can print anything on it. And this is actually cardstock that I printed on. So it wouldn't have been so see-through because I know that if you use regular paper, sometimes the richer colors will kind of bleed into the back. So you will see the different images that you use. But this one's a cardstock, so it wouldn't have been a problem. I hope that makes sense. So basically, I think that would be a good idea is to just print on the back. And then you can do a little bit of collaging on it, but it's okay. I'm just gonna ink it and then I'm gonna think about how I want to cover it up. Okay, so here I'm going to try some different things, and of course I'm gonna bring in book page again because I think it works so well with these kits. Sometimes I feel like that's all you need is just at least for me, I feel like sometimes I just need something extra when I work with a kit. So I will add, this is why I add and mix a lot of different kits, because I feel like it helps my creativity. So if I feel like a little bit of creative block, or I'm not kind of sure which way I'm going into, I'll go grab more papers. It could be book pages. It can be just something a little bit different, so that I can incorporate something different with what I already have. And that way, a lot of times I get more inspiration that way. So for me, with this journal, I think that's what really helped me, is adding the yellowed book print. I really loved the contrast and it really seemed to help me kind of keep going. Okay, so here I'm looking for more book page. So I'm looking just for the book print part, because I don't really care for the pictures in this case. They have some nice pictures in this magazine, but that's not the type of journal I'm working on. So I'm looking just for that book print that is basically just a really great background page that you can keep collaging on top. Okay, so I added some glue. I love using my Fabri-Tac glue. It glues really well and it's my favorite go-to. Okay, so now I'm thinking what else I want to do. I love this ledger. It's also from Indigo Notes, from Tanya's collection, Indigo Notes. But I think I'm gonna go with book page. I'm gonna keep going with the book page theme. And it's almost like I'm using the book page as like the basic background. It's almost like a neutral in this kit, if that makes sense. So you're getting all the visual, the color, the rich colors, but then you need some kind of neutral that helps the other pages stand out. And I feel like the book page is what does that. It's your neutral, your white space. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm just adding white space, and then I'm gonna go with kind of like the design element and the contrast. And then I'm gonna go with basically the rich colors and the pretty roses where your eye kind of goes to. And so this kind of just helps balance out a page, I feel like. Okay, so here I just keep adding little pieces of book page. I used a little bit of masking tape on that white spot there, and I really do love the way it looks. It blends in with the book page really, really well, and it covered up that white space, and I feel like it adds just a little bit of extra, an extra detail, I suppose. I'm basically going to keep collaging, and the whole page is going to be book page because that's kind of my background. And then you can always add on top of that. Okay, so here I'm trying to figure out the placement of my pages. with the brown, the rich brown document, but I'm trying to figure out which way I want it to go. See how this is really dark? I'm thinking it needs some kind of contrast in between them. And besides that, I have two ledgers right like back to back. I don't like rules, so I'm not saying you can't do that, but I do like the idea of having some kind of like imagery or florals in between it, just to kind of break up the look. So here I'm going to try this one, and I like the way this looks. And I'm just going to fold it up right now. Okay, so here I'm looking at the colors to see how they work together, and I'm trying to decide which ones I want to go with. And I'm going to ink up the edges again because that's going to make it easier for me in the long run. Glued part of it down, and then after I glued it down, I'm tearing it. But I do want to see some of the edges, so see how I am kind of rolling it up a little bit, and I want to see some of those edges just a little bit kind of rolled up. And I'm going to add some ink to it. Okay, again, I'm inking those edges before I glue everything down. And then I'm going to kind of carefully tear, kind of along the tear of the other page. And if it's not perfect, it's okay, because I will roll those edges up a little bit, and I will keep inking both sides of the edges and the inside, if that makes sense. Okay, so here I just realized that it was a little bit longer, so I'm going to tear this part off and make it just a little bit shorter so that it fits inside the journal. And I'm going to go back and ink those edges. Okay, so I'm inking the edges again. And I really do love the torn edges. It's a little bit extra work when you tear the edges instead of just leaving them flat, because you just use a trimmer. And so, but I really do like the effect. I feel like it really adds so much to your page when they're torn and rolled up like that and all inked up. It does take some time, but I think it's really pretty and worth the effort. Okay, now I'm just gonna glue down my pages. I'm gonna glue them together here. Okay, now I'm smoothing everything out to make sure it's all nice and even, and I don't mind little wrinkles. Again, I think it adds a lot of character to the pages, but I do smooth it out so that the glue gets everywhere. Now I'm trying some different things out. Again, I change things up a lot, so I have to try it on the outside just in case to see if that looks a little bit better. I like it like this because you have the contrast. See how pretty that contrast looks? Okay, so this is basically the back page. And then this is the front of it. There's the little pocket, and then there's the front signature. And so again, I'm looking through it again to get a feel of how it looks. I do this multiple times throughout my design process. Okay, I brought in my ledger again. I'm trying to figure out where I want it. Do I want it on this side or on the other side? I think I like it in the back, but then I need more pages here, I think. I'm thinking I need a couple more in here. So I'm gonna bring some more in. Okay, so here's how it looks. And I'm trying to figure out what else I want to do now. I want to bring in this yellow. I think this is really pretty. I got this from my sister, and I love the way the color looks. It's a little bit bright, but I think it fits so good with this with this color scheme with the rich colors. And so I'm trying to find a good placement for it. Right now, I'm looking to add some vintage pieces like from this invoice book. Again, it's got this yellowed invoices with the writing. I think it's so pretty. And I love the vintage look. So I'm gonna grab a couple of those and see where I can add them in. And again, I like to break things up with some of the vintage ledgers or receipts and invoices. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of breaking up the different papers and adding some of these. I think it adds a lot of character to the journal, and so I'm trying to figure out where I want them to go. Okay, I think this one would look good in here too. Doesn't that look pretty? I just love that teal color with the yellow. Okay, I'm gonna put this one in here. I don't want to be too redundant, so I don't want to have like every other page an invoice. So I decided to go with that one instead. Then I'm thinking, should I add one in here? I could, but I don't want to add too many, but I'm going to try different pieces and different placements to see kind of what works best. Okay, I really love this yellow, but I'm not sure where I want it to go. I love this color, and I decided to add one in here in between the book page. And I'm just going to fold it up by using the other page as a guide. I'm just going to tear this part off, and I'm going to ink that edge so you don't have too much white showing, but I don't mind some white showing because I feel like it still looks a little bit aged against the dark color. And now I have this page that I think I want to use, and I'm going to tear off this edge here because I like the way it looks. I love that torn look. And it'll allow some of that gray ledger part to kind of show up against the printed paper. So it just kind of, it adds a nice border to it, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to tear more of this off. And I'm going to see how that looks. Okay, so now I'm going to ink the edges, and I'm going to add a little bit of glue. And I don't add glue all the way to the edge because I don't mind parts of the edges kind of being a little bit loose. I feel like that kind of adds a little bit of texture when they kind of lift up and roll up just a little bit. So that's kind of one thing that I do a lot. I just leave part of it up, and then I think I want to add some book page to the edges up here, and so I'm gonna add it now. A lot of times I'll add it before. I'll just glue it on the edge there, but I forgot, so I'm just gonna tuck in little bits of pieces of book page, and I really like that effect. I think it looks so pretty. And I love I love the contrast. I think the contrast looks so good with it. So I'm just going to tuck the different pieces inside there. And I have another piece that I want to add. And don't be afraid to like manipulate the paper and kind of make it work for you. Okay, so there we go. I like that. Okay, here I'm going to just roll it up again some more. And I'm adding some ink because I'm rolling it up and I'm seeing a little bit of white on the edge, so I want to add a little bit of ink. So I just peeled it up a little bit more and just added the ink. So you can always kind of play with your paper. And I'm going to break it up just a little bit on that side too. I'm going to fold it up a little bit. Okay, here's how it looks, and I'm still kind of thinking about where I want to use this yellow book page. I think this one looks really well though, so I might go with this one instead. But you know me, I change things out quite a bit. So okay, so that's kind of the construction of my journal. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and it's just a little bit of behind the scenes of how I make the pages. And for this journal, this is all I have recorded so far. But if you want to take a look and see how the pages look all done, I have a flip through video and I will link it below. If you'd like to see more of this type of video, please let me know in the comments below, and I will do my best to make more of behind the scenes videos of how I make my journals. A lot of times I work kind of sporadically over a period of time, so I don't always record my process. But if there is an interest, I will definitely keep it in mind and make some more videos of my process. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.